Not everybody lives, but everybody dies. So while I'm in the air, I'm shooting for the sky. Landing on the moon, walking on the sun. Taking over the game, give it back when we done. Not everybody lives, but everybody dies. So while I'm in the air, I'm shooting for the sky. Landing on the moon, walking on the sun. Taking over the game, give it back when we done. I'll give it back when we done.
10,000 hands in the air, have you ever seen? Work 9 to 5, up out to 9, do you ever dream? They in the red, but my stalk is green. Proud like I reached the clouds, all off a beam. Dreams on lucid, films on Lucas. Sound on surround, and the crowd on stupid. Who that chick Dion? That's Dion on Clueless. You circling around the money, sitting in a Cupid car. Still the dreams, they said I'm too corny. Funny, I got their ears all on me. Fears all gone and my peers all wrong. So keep your 2 cents in every phrase y'all coin me. That's just common sense, all the hating, I honored it. I don't leak, I quantum it. I don't answer, I problem it. I just drop shit while they asking what a colonic is. Thinky, you know what I'm pondering?
Not everybody lives, but everybody dies. So while I'm in the air, I'm shooting for the sky. Landing on the moon, walking on the sun. Taking over the game, give it back when we done. Not everybody lives, but everybody dies. So while I'm in the air, I'm shooting for the sky. Landing on the moon, walking on the sun. Taking over the game, give it back when we done. I'll give it back when we done.
What's up, CFO gang? It's your boy Jay Tuck. Real Cowboys fans, stand up. Salute to everyone out there in the chat, man. I see you. Y'all are lit and ready as the Dallas Cowboys football season is finally here. We had our opening press conference today. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it all as a family, y'all, because there's a lot to talk about. But I had to bring on this special guest, man. And this guy, he's a godfather in our community. I mean, if you don't know, I mean, what the hell have you been doing? You know what I'm saying? But he was a godfather community, one of the hardest working people I know. You know, anytime there's some Cowboys news, whether he's on the road, whether he's at home, like he is going to be one of those ones who are going to keep the Dallas Cowboys nation engaged in what's going on with the Cowboys at all time. He is a pillar in this community. He set the foundation. Without this man, there would be no J Tuck. There would be no DMV. There would be no Rome's, and the list going on and on. Right, because he set the standard amongst others as well. So he was so kind to give us some of his time to come on the show today. So CFO gang, let's give a warm welcome to the Godfather, Mark Holmes. What's going on, my guy?
Man, with an introduction like that, I was watching your intro, and it was like, who's who? I was waiting to see Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones up in there and stuff, man. You got literally everybody in there. And I got to say, you know, it was back in Chicago. I've got to actually go. It might be on my old channel, but meeting you there at that draft and stuff, man. Who knew that you were going to blow up the way you did? So, you know, props to you, man. You're putting in the work and stuff, man. And I appreciate you inviting me on here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Now, I wasn't a content creator back in Chicago at that 2016 draft. I was just a emotional Cowboys fan. I remember Mark tried to interview me after we drafted Zeke, and I was not hearing it because y'all know I was out there for one person and one person only, which was Jalen Ramsey. So when they passed on Jalen Ramsey, I was hightailing it out of there, and I ran into Mark, and he was interviewing me, but I wasn't in my best mindset. You know what I'm saying? So y'all have to forgive me back then, because I might have had some choice words.
That clip.
I probably had some choice words from that organization. I remember my mama was like, okay, he doesn't need to be on camera right now. He's done, because I was just furious, right? But it's always been cool, man, everything coming back full circle. But besides that, man, how you been, my guy? How are you feeling as we gear up for another Dallas Cowboys season?
You know, was really excited. You know, when I woke up this morning, we got the team in Oxnard. We didn't have any major, you know, slap your face. You know, our players did something stupid other than Kayvon Turpin. You know, that Micah Parsons wasn't holding out. That I looked at it from last year. You had, you know, Mike McCarthy on the hot seat. You had CeeDee Lamb holding out. Are we going to trade him? Dak Prescott facing last year on his contract. What team is he going to go to? Jerry Jones going all in and then actually saying we're going to do more with less. We had all that drama, and I was just like, you know, the sky is parted. You know, all the black clouds are gone. I was feeling good and excited. You know, Brian Schottenheimer, I really like the way he speaks with the players, and speaks on the players, talks football, and I was like, things are great. And then I watched the press conference, and then you were like,
man.
what the hell is going on? It's like on the same day that you hear that Bruce Willis literally can't speak, can't read, and is having a hard time walking because of his dementia, I'm looking at Jerry and kind of saying,
hey, yeah.
he's getting like Al Davis now. And I hope that Stephen Jones is actually running things, that they're just letting Jerry be the crazy uncle, and you know, just go out, have fun, and we're going to do the work over here, because I don't know what that was today.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it, man, as we break it down line by line. But it was a gut punch for me, because it's like, all right, Tuck, we've been kind of going through this lull of off season. We've been hearing the talk, but all right, here we are, opening day, press conference. It's time to get excited about our Dallas Cowboys in the season. And it was just Jerry, just, you know what I'm saying, with those Pacquiao shots to the ribs. And I'm just like,
defending himself.
Yeah, and I'm just like, man, and you mentioned it, Mark, you know, and I was having this conversation because, you know, we're talking about it off cam, but I get in a lot of trouble on Twitter. But I was like, if Jerry Jones was our grandparent, right, he would not be able to drive. We wouldn't let him. We would have power of attorneys on all of his accounts. You know, we would be having all these different measures in place.
Hide the liquor.
To protect our grandpa. But they just let him go on stage willy-nilly. I'm like, if I went to the retirement home up here in the street and started interviewing some of these people for my YouTube channel, asking them questions as they kind of fumble around themselves, they would think that I'm horrible. But Jerry just sits up there and he just dances, talks.
And they just let him just go.
Yeah. And I think the most disappointing thing for me, and we'll kind of break it down as well, is that I wanted to hear my coach, right? I want to hear from my coach, and Schottenheimer, the brand new coach of the Dallas Cowboys, because let's keep it a buck. We talked about this last year, Mark. Last year's camp was kind of a ghost town. There wasn't a lot of hype.
Oh my God.
Blah, but things have started to turn a little bit when it comes to Cowboys fans. Maybe that's with George Pickens, but it's also been with Brian Schottenheimer and the staff. Maybe you should just let your head coach be the focal point of the interview today. And I said, you know what? Let's not rush the judgment, Tuck. Let's just take a look and see what other teams might do, because you really don't focus on other teams. Let's see if this happens. I went to the Chargers. It was just Harbaugh. I went to the Chiefs. It was just Andy Reid. You know, who else? I went to the Lions. It was just Campbell. I was like, oh, so y'all have to sit up there with the owners and their sons at every camp? It was one little podium, one little mic. But it seems like when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, it's the circus. So let me ask you this. Do you think there's a way that we can ever break out of this, or is it who we are, Mark, and we got to find a way around it?
You know, what I was told back about 2018, 2019, that Jerry had some kind of an illness and that Stephen Jones was taking over and doing more things. So basically there was a succession plan. Now, you kind of got a little bit in here of this where, you know, Jerry says, I don't talk to the agents. And it's a good thing you don't talk to the agents, because if you're talking to them like that shit, you're never getting a deal done. And that's where Steven kind of jumps in and says, well, no, Jerry doesn't talk to the agents. I'm the one who actually talks to him, and I have a good relationship with David Magenta. And so you kind of wonder if this is, you know, Jerry, and you think about Landman, where he talks about working with his kids every day, and that was his dream. I think that was actually real life, the way he had put that out there. And I think that they don't really want to put him out the pasture, and they want to let him kind of be Jerry. But I don't think Jerry is really running things like this. I mean, we know that Mike is going to get a deal. The way Jerry went through sounded like a crazy old man that was, get off my lawn. I'm pissed off at everybody. You know, I paid Dak and he got injured. You know, if I pay Micah, you know, he missed 6 games. Actually, it was only 4. You know, and, you know, and you know, should I have paid Diggs and Terrence Steele? You know, and it's just like, wow. Who did not get bitch slapped by Jerry Jones here?
Yeah, and think about this, and I'll talk, because Mike is the easy one, Diggs is probably the easy one. Let's just take Terrence Steele, for instance, right? Terrence Steele was an undrafted free agent who battled to his job, right tackle, who's earned his money because the year that he got paid, he earned it, right?
Yes.
Got paid, and then he tore his knee. Things happen when you're playing a collision sport in football, right? So I don't think that Terrence Steele planned to tear his knee, and then he's recovered and he's played decent. Has he played incredible? No, but the fact that Terrence Steele is getting ready for camp, and you're sitting back like, damn, me, like, yeah,
you're a piece of unless this is the big psychology thing that he's telling you you're not working good enough, where Micah Parsons says when they don't believe your worth, work harder. Maybe Jerry Jones in his dementia took that, they haven't proved anything to me, maybe they'll work harder now. I don't know. I don't know what his motivation is. His motivation was last year, I'll put everybody on the last year of their deal and they're going to either put up or get out. I don't know what it is he's trying to do. I have no clue.
Yeah, and it's extremely frustrating because all off season since we hired Brian Schottenheimer, we've done shows on it. You've done shows on it, numerous videos about the cultural change, right? Being more of a family, bringing everyone together, not having this divisiveness in the locker room and this and that, and, playing paintball and basketball and all sorts of stuff that Shotty has been working on, trying to bring this culture closer together than ever before. And then Jerry Jones says, I don't give a damn, threw a big ass grenade in the middle of it where you can start feeling some type of way. If I'm Trayvon Diggs trying to recover from my knee injury so I can play for your team, right, and help you out, I feel some type of way of you just taking shots at me, knowing damn well last year I did work out in Dallas and it didn't work out in my favor. So it's like, all right, all could have been said about Trayvon Diggs, Mark, is like, hey, he's not with the team right now, but we're fully aware of everything that's going on. He's training in Florida. We hope to have him back soon, but we want to make sure that he's fully healthy before he returns. Keep it at that. Just keep it at that, right? But why they have to be, he ain't here, so he ain't earned that money, and we want leadership, and Deion Sanders this, and I had to do this. Like, why does it have to be this way? And the problem is with me, y'all, if Shotty would have just been asked that question, there probably would have been no problem.
Right.
But it's Jerry up there being this character. And man.
He should not be the one answering these questions.
Yeah.
There's no other owner out there that does this.
I was looking. I found one. I guess the Bengals owner. He's up there causing the stir. The Bengals owner today. But besides that, I couldn't find because I wanted to look like, okay, maybe I'm wrong, Mark. Maybe there's our owners that always speak at the press conferences, and this is I found the Bengals, Cowboys, and then nobody else. They might come out and do a quick intro, but it's on the coaches. It's on the coaching staff. And I feel like for the fans' sake, we wanted to hear from Brian Schottenheimer. Even when we started to hear from Brian Schottenheimer, Jerry was cutting him off. Like, ain't nobody come see you, Otis.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was crazy because I actually, when I listened to, say, Kellen Moore versus Brian Schottenheimer, or Mike McCarthy or Brian Schottenheimer, I actually enjoy listening to his press conferences. When he sits down at the table there and it's like it's like we're having a conversation between us, and he actually gives you legitimate, answers, and you can tell that there's actually thought behind it. It's not, we're baffling you with some bullshit. But Jerry, he's become unwatchable. And it's just like every time this offseason he's said something, from I haven't talked to the agent, who, David Magenta, who's that?
Right.
It's like you can't have him out doing this stuff anymore. I think he did more damage to the psyche of the players. The players going in here are like, yeah, man, we got Tyler Smith talking about, Super Bowl is our aspiration. You got everybody feeling good and excited. You get Brock Hoffman, football is back and he's doing his Instagram video. The players were so excited to be here and to perform. And then you hear the guy who's the boss and the owner who's going to have to pay you basically tell Micah Parsons, screw you. I'm in no hurry to pay you.
Right.
And if you're not going to pay Micah,
contracts.
Yeah, I understand. You said, well, maybe you paid some guys too early. Okay, you could look at it and say, with Diggs, Diggs, his rookie year was kind of okay. He had the monster second season. He became more of a real corner his second year. You could say, well, maybe it was a little early to pay him on that one, and then he got hurt. Now, had he not gotten hurt, maybe it would have been a different story. Terrence Steele, he was, like you said, undrafted rookie free agent, but he was playing pretty well. Maybe you could have said we can wait on that. But you didn't wait on Michael Gallup, who was recovering from a knee injury.
Right.
So don't go through and say these guys didn't perform when you went ahead and hurried up and paid him. You hurried up and paid Jalen Smith and some of these guys and so forth. Okay, yeah, you could look at that and say they had one good year and you paid them. Okay, that is, you can look at that and say, okay, that makes sense. But Micah has been consistent, and even though he missed 4 games, still had 12 sacks.
Right.
That tear he went through the second half of the season, 11 sacks in 10 games?
Yeah.
Most guys didn't get 11 sacks in the whole season.
And pushed us out of Travis Hunter contention. We could be talking about, we could be walking around, all of us, in Ashton Genty jerseys.
Maybe
right
that's
now.
why Jerry was mad. Well,
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So, but he came back and he fought. And like you're saying, Mark, it's just like, it did a lot of harm, I would say, today, because here's what, I know Joseph Hoy, I think he's coming on the show tomorrow, but we'll see that. But it's like, he asked a good question. And when Jerry talked about, maybe paying Terrence early or paying Diggs early, he missed the one key caveat, right? He even missed the part that if he didn't pay them, they were going to be unrestricted free agents the next year.
Gone.
And then they can talk to everybody. So that's why you paid them. But even when you paid them, I know for sure Diggs did you a favor contractually. Why? He didn't hit you over the head and become the reset the market. He did you a favor. And then this is the things that he gets. So it's just like, it kind of puts you in a situation where you can't trust the front office. And here's what we could possibly get to, Cowboys Nation. We'll go through like line items and night items by everything spoke about, right? But with Shoddy being so close to the players, it could be a situation where eventually there's a civil war, right? Where the players and Shoddy versus the front office eventually. Because if the player sends back into like, damn, bro, they doing Shoddy dirty too, and that's our dog. Like, they could possibly start to.
But then that means they're going to play for Shoddy.
Right.
That's where it all comes in. It's a bunker mentality. It's us against the front office, Screw those guys. We're here together fighting and putting it all together. That would be the hope there. Now, here's where you'll be able to tell if this is just Jerry just being out there being Jerry, is if you see Micah Parsons' deal done in the next week. Which what that'll tell you is Jerry Jones is just a whole bunch of mouth, but others are actually running the organization. And that's what we really want to hope for, because at this point, at his age, that Jerry Jones is not as sharp as anybody as he used to be.
Right.
And when you look at it, I think Mickey Loomis is probably the oldest GM, and I think he's 59. Right. So you start looking at that and saying, is Jerry Jones really the guy to be the GM right now? I don't think so.
Yeah, and Jerry talked about it. He's like, oh, this isn't a job. I'm just been having fun for 30. Oh, yeah, we know you just been having fun for 30 years. But like losing consistently doesn't feel like fun to me.
Here's the flip side of this, though. Okay, if you're saying that, I've paid all these guys and lost all this money, but you're here just to have fun. You've been here having fun, and you've made more money than any other team in the NFL. So where's the problem?
Right.
Because it certainly isn't about winning Super Bowls with the shit that you did last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. And this is the magical question, because I know we're streaming on Twitter right now. So if any media person is watching, I need someone to ask this. Okay. Just ask it. You know what I'm saying? If it was me, with credentials around my neck, I would ask this question. What responsibility does the front office take for the failures of the Dallas Cowboys? I need that answer, because they were saying, it was the injuries, right? They were playing the injury bug. And then he talked about, magically all of a sudden, Mark, it was a quarterback situation, because when Dak went down, we didn't have a good quarterback. But you was telling me, Cooper. All right, cool. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. All right, cool. Whatever, bro. But what responsibility does the front office and the GM/owner have in the lack of success the Dallas Cowboys have seen, not under Mike McCarthy's regime?
Never going to admit that.
Exactly. Exactly. It's always someone else's fault. It's always Mike. You see, he even took a shot at Mike McCarthy, y'all. So they asked him about Mike, or someone was asked about Mike McCarthy. And he was like, well, Mike
He never
McCarthy,
was in
when
the
he was
draft room.
yeah, he was in the draft room in Green Bay, and he really didn't want to be here in Dallas. Well, because Mike McCarthy's thinking, hey, bro, I got GMs, scouts, all of that. You guys know what I'm looking for. You guys go shopping. Plus, if I'm Mike McCarthy, y'all didn't draft shit I wanted in the first place anyway. We saw numerous videos of Mike McCarthy. I want Matthew Bergeron, and they're like, no, we're going with Mozzie Smith. So Mike McCarthy's like, why the hell am I here anyway?
You know what just hit me? Do you remember after Jerry went off last year and, of course, wasn't getting anybody a new contract? Mm-hmm. Do you remember when we had the combine?
Mm-hmm.
They left Mike McCarthy and Mike Zimmer back in Dallas. He was not allowed to go because he was working on plays for the upcoming season. So you're talking out of both sides of your neck and saying that, oh, Mike McCarthy didn't want to be. No, you didn't want him to be part of it. You wanted to be the guy picking the groceries for these things. These things haven't changed. And, when you think about it, I don't know how the Cowboys won 12 games those 3 years in a row when you think about the lack of activity. Think about this for a second. And the whole time that Mike McCarthy was the head coach here, the biggest moves they made were the trade for Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks. Where else did you see where they actually got a primo player to add to this roster?
Yeah.
When you see the Eagles out there adding Saquon or Baltimore adding, Derrick Henry and things, going out and getting A.J. Brown, we lose Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson, and all these guys, and we've got like Noah Brown starting, for us and things. Noah Browns and Jalen Tolberts. And they're selling us on, God, I can't remember his name. He said Ryan Fenoy. Hey, that Ryan Fenoy, he's got some Dez Bryant in him. You're selling us a crock of shit because you didn't put the players in the team out there. Everybody will go through and they'll say, well, Dak wasn't playing good to start out with. How could he play good when you were averaging about 65 yards on the ground every game?
Right.
How could you play good when your number one wide receiver wasn't there in training camp for no good? I can't see the reason not to have gotten that contract done. It wasn't like they saved money. It wasn't like he got the contract done and said, oh, my God, the Joneses, they came up with a great deal. It was really smart for them to hold up, let him hold out. They got screwed. You screwed up his ability to work with the team. And then you get Brandon Cooks with an infection in his knee. So now you got a wide receiver that you've got to have on a pitch count because you're worried about soft tissue injuries. You got Jalen Tolbert, who is really a number 3, number 4, who's playing number 2. And you got, the fellas as your third receiver. You've got no running game. You've got a rookie offensive left tackle who can't block anybody going inside. He's either going to hold or they're going to get a sack.
Right.
And we're going to turn around and say, well, the quarterback, he got hurt, so our season was screwed. No, our season was screwed from the time that you did not sign anybody out there, and you decided that you were going to have a hissy fit and not re-sign any of the coaches to a contract. And instead of just saying you're fired, you didn't want to be – you're so freaking petty that you're not going to pay a coach not to coach.
Right.
That you literally made that decision that I am going to make him suffer because I'm a rich guy and I'm having fun.
Yep. Exactly. There's a lot of pettiness inside the building, y'all. And I know a lot of Cowboys fans, they get upset when we have these conversations more because it's like, what can we do about it? I don't know, but we got to keep fighting. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to keep fighting because what I'm trying to explain is just like parenting. I know you're a parent, I'm a parent, right? When the household, the parents aren't in sync, typically the kids aren't going to be in sync. So there's always this bickering back and forth. And there was a question that was asked, well, I think Jay Lou spoke on it and Dak Prescott spoke on it last year, and there was never a follow-up question, but they said, I would like to see Mike McCarthy what he could do if he could do things his way.
Yeah.
Like, so what was it specifically that did? What's kind of going on in-house? They feel the rifts. They feel the divisiveness. Some players can get away with stuff where Mike McCarthy probably wanted to move on from Zeke. Jerry just says no, so they suspend him for one game. And it's just all this back and forth when it comes to our front office versus just being rich and staying out the way.
Yeah.
And I just think that is going to be borderline impossible unless Brian Schottenheimer is just a coach and messiah, or Dak Prescott just plays out of his mind to overcome all of the dark clouds of the front office. Y'all remember this year, the Combine in the Senior Bowl, where Jerry just wasn't speaking to y'all remember how nice that was? It felt like, hey, it's just going to be our coach, kind of talking, and Shotty kind of talking, and Jerry was nowhere to be found. He said, no. He's back. Once after he got George Pickens' mark, he said, I am back. Where's the cameras? You know what I'm saying? Where is the cameras? And it's just so crazy that people don't understand the impact that has on the football organization. Now, there was some, I would say, a little good from the press conference. So what were some of the good things you may have found throughout all the chaos from today's press conference?
Nothing from Jerry. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Stephen Jones saying,
besides he has a cartoon, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
You loved how, like, David Moore, I think, who was basically talking about how great he was in Landman and he should have been up for an Emmy. Okay, so you saw him trying to smooth it all out,
right.
get grease the skin, so to speak, there before they asked him. What I at least liked hearing was that Brian Schottenheimer was saying that Mozzie looked really, really good getting into camp.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to do anything, we're going to really need Mozzie to take another step. It's kind of the thing about nose tackle, and that's a spot that's near and dear to me, okay, because that's what I played at JMU, is it's a position that it literally takes years to really become good. You notice how a lot of your really good ones are actually in their late 20s and in their 30s. But it takes about 3 or 4 years for you to really understand the position because unlike being a defensive tackle, everything's pretty much coming from your inside or a defensive end. You're always used to rushing inside, your eyes and everything there. As a nose tackle, you are at the center of the universe and you don't know where the shit's coming from. It might be the center. It might be the guard. It might be the guard and the center. It might be the fullback. It might be a tight end from the wham coming at you. Everybody is out to kill you. And you being able to fight pressure and learn those things, it takes time to develop. And with Mozzie having gone through the first year, where basically they said, we want you to be a pass rusher, well, then you drafted the wrong guy. He's a run stuffer. For him to try and lose all that weight, you literally lost that year. To see him starting out as 217 in the first couple of games, but he was getting better as the season went on, and you saw flashes of that. But now to go through with another defensive coordinator, now 3 years in a row, it's kind of hard to get into a system and get consistent when you keep changing, and people don't realize that. Even with Micah Parsons, everybody is now 3 years in a row with a new defensive coordinator. And that, this is where, unfortunately, people are like, oh, man, the Cowboys got no excuse. Dak's got no excuses. It's like, we've got a whole new coaching staff. We have a whole lot of new players that are going to take time to learn. The thing that I hope is, because the beginning of our schedule is the softer part, that it allows this team to get some confidence and to grow and some experience. And then hopefully we get back in Overshown, we get back at Diggs, we get back, we get Savon Ravel as we start getting towards crunch time against the better teams. That's the only hope I have. But, I'm hoping for a better season than last year. If we get, 10 wins or more, I think it's a successful season. Cowboy fans will say we're losers, we're bums, but you got to understand this is a whole new situation here starting out, and you got an owner who's a freaking idiot.
Exactly. And that's the conversation, right? Because it's a tough one to have because, of course, we're Cowboys fans. We want Super Bowls. We want championships. We want banners, right? That's what the ultimate goal is. And we heard the soundbite from Tyler Smith. But if we were just, I don't know, we were two guys who covers the Bills and you asked about the Cowboys, everything that you spoke about, we would bring to attention. Brand new coaching staff, a young, unexperienced coaching staff coming from college. So will that translate? The defense is going to their third defensive coordinator. They have the cornerbacks who will probably start on PUP. New linebackers are kind of unproven as of right now. Lack of interior depth when it comes to defensive tackle. Left tackle's a question mark. Running back. So we would bring up all these factors if we were Jay Tuck and Mark Holmes from the Bills Inquirer, wherever the Bills knew. We would bring up these factors when it comes to the Cowboys, but since we're Cowboys fans, there's a little reluctancy when we say that, but you're absolutely right. There's a lot of question marks. The one thing I could lean on last year is that love or hate Mike McCarthy, I knew he was a better coach than Brian Daboll. I felt he was a better coach than Nick Sirianni, and I felt like ultimately he's a better coach X's and O's wise than Dan Quinn. So I knew that Mike was not going to shrink versus those types of coaches in the NFC East. I don't know what Shawnee can do. Shawnee could be Sean McVay or he could be Ron Rivera. Like, who we don't have to know. We got to praise more Sean McVay, but we don't know what he's going to be, So it's like we have to kind of sit back and be patient. And like you're saying, even though it's still kind of, it's not super light, like playing last year when we went from, even though we lost to the Saints, but it's not as light as last year earlier on. We do need to get some momentum as wins as we gear up for that slate as we end October. Then it's the Philly, Kansas City, Detroit, Washington, Vikings, slide.
I still say Washington is overrated. I'm sorry. They have the oldest roster in the NFL. You realize that, right? They're the over-the-hill gang again.
I know that's the topic of discussion with Washington being overrated. But here's the thing. I really don't know. I don't know who my team is for me to beat on my chest yet. So it's like, if this was kind of the same mold, I'd be like, yeah, it would be fine versus Washington. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what can really happen. But I think that from a paper standpoint, we are better than Washington. But we got
if we're healthy.
If healthy, right? If healthy, we don't know. Like, is Dak going to be able to scramble out the pocket? Is he going to, we don't know these types of things, but we'll have to sit back and see. But I think the George Pickens, it kind of gave me a little bit more comfort knowing that we ain't going to be the doormat no more. I was getting kind of, if you're going to roll me out there with Turpin and
Jay, think about this for a second. Think about where we were last year. Okay. We were the worst in separation last year. We had CeeDee Lamb, who wasn't there all off season, out there, and you had Jalen Tolbert as your number 2.
Right.
Think about CeeDee and George Pickens being best buddies, working out every practice in OTAs, going with Dak Prescott's little, get together and everything else, and going through a full training camp together. That's just, and if Dak is healthy and he looks like it and talking to his Uncle Philip, he is 100%. He's feeling better than he has, in years, even from the original ankle injury, that it's feeling better than it did at any other point right now. That's a scary proposition for teams.
Yeah, right.
Because Dak is, contrary to what people think, Dak is one of the best deep throwers in the NFL. He just hasn't had guys that can get open. And you get Pickens, who's one of the best deep receivers. Whoa, that's going to open up a lot of things. But, again, there's a lot of questions that are out there. And I'm going to say the 2 biggest spots that, if we're going to succeed, is left tackle. Tyler Guyton has got to be better. And Mozzie at the nose to help stop at the point of attack. If those 2 guys can step up and be above average, we'll have a good season.
Yeah, I would say those 2. I've been saying Tyler Guyton, Mark, is the most important piece of our season. He's the key. He's the key. Like, he has to figure out, because not, we have to get a little creative. Mozzie as well. But I will say this as well. I would toss in one of the running backs, because Patrick No-See, Walker Suits of Patrick No-See, asked Shoddy about the running back rotation, and he said it's pretty much open for the RB1, which is like, all right,
you really need to get the pads on to really see how the running backs are. That's not something you can really determine in OTAs. But, I have a lot of faith in Tyler Booker, and I think that he's going to end up being really good to be a road grader in the middle. I love, Cooper BB. Cooper BB, I like to think of him as the juggernaut because he is
Right.
truly a guy that can push. And Tyler Smith, that middle of the field should be able to be like the parting of the Red Sea for the running
Exactly.
backs. And if George Pickens, because here's my vision here. This would be great if Schoonmaker or Brentford Spam becomes really a decent number 2 wide receiver and Ferguson gets where he was 2 years ago. If you go in 12 personnel and you got Pickens on one side and you got CD on the other, you've got those 2 tight ends, and you basically say to the defense, what you going to do? And especially if it's Jaden Blue, who's really quick, who's a better pass catcher. If you're not going to put 8 men in the box, then I'm going to run right at you until you can stop us, okay? With those guys in the middle, and if they're facing 6 men, 7 men front, I take the advantage right there.
Right.
If they do put 8 men in the box, and you got Ferguson, you've got CD, and you've got George Pickens, they're a one-on-one.
Yeah.
One of those guys is going to be open, and Dak will find them. And that's where you're going to make your bread and butter. And that's where the play action will really come in. But we will need one of these running backs to play above board. Maybe Miles Sanders can be like Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden, for the last 3 years that he was with the Raiders, was averaging about 3.3 yards a carry. And everybody thought, he's spent. He came to the Cowboys. He averaged 4.6 yards a carry with that offensive line. Now, granted, that was when we were at the peak of
the Great
Tyron
Wall.
Smith and Zach Martin and Travis Frederick. But when you think about how the middle of that field is going to be, they should be able to let a running back get to the second level where you are going to be able to make some gains. The problem is when you don't have a good offensive line and the running back is having to make a move in the backfield because he's got a defensive tackle that's right there. That's when you're screwed.
Exactly. And I feel like that's what we really missed last year because Zach Martin was having an alien injuries. Tyler Guyton was struggling. So our offensive line wasn't playing well. And on top of that, we really didn't have a running back with any wiggle to make people miss and make things happen. So I feel like now the offensive line should be improved. The scheme should help. The coaching and Connor Riley should help. And just another year under these young players' belts will help. And I think that Tyler Booker is going to be an instant impact improvement. And I think Terrence Steele, on contrary to what Jerry might believe, I think that he's going to have a much improved season as well. So I think the offensive line will be okay. It's just the running backs who I'm kind of concerned, like, okay, now if you have it, who can make someone circle that running back to like, okay, we have to watch him. I feel like if there's anybody that could become that, would be Jadon Blue because he has that gear that can hit that burst. He's still fairly young, but he's still a work in progress. But he does have a gear where you have to kind of be okay, because if he can hit this crease, he could definitely cut and hit his head on the goalpost. Yeah. So I think once you add that, it should definitely open the dynamic. But Jake Ferguson should be due for a big year, naturally. He should be due.
But back to Terrence Steele. Now, here's the thing about Terrence Steele that's interesting, okay? You could look at it and say he played terrible the first half of the season, but he started playing better his second half. He is like an enigma because he is like, by Pro Football Focus, I think 15th rated tackle as far as run blocking. But he's somewhere in the 80s at pass blocking. And with Mike McCarthy, when he had Dak Prescott, you're passing the ball 60+% of the time. In which case, if I'm a defensive lineman, I'm happy as shit if you're passing the ball all the time because I go from being defensive to being offensive. And by that, what I mean is I have to, as a nose tackle, I have to sit here and I have to get hit and try and figure out which way is the center trying to wheel me. And then I got to fight pressure, okay? If I know it's a pass play, I'm thinking about the move I'm going to make to get past him. I'm thinking about taking a jab step, and I'm going to dip and rip the shoulder and come across his face and get upfield. So now I'm offensive. And when you pass all the time or I know it's a pass play, I'm happy because I am going to make that move on you. And so for Terrence Steele, who's a weaker pass blocker, there was no doubt that the Cowboys could run the football. So we're not worried about you. We are going to pass rush you every play and not worry about the run. And that's why he was so bad the first half. In the second half, you were forced to run the football, in which case it was more balanced. The defenses didn't know, is it a pass, is it a run? They've got to play the run first. He was ended up playing much better. And if Schottenheimer is what he says he is, he wants to run and do more play action, that will make Terrence Steele a better tackle.
Yep, absolutely. Terrence is much better going forward than going backwards on
Very
his
much
heels.
so.
And here's the thing about that, Mark. Let's say we're doing 45 pass attempts, okay? And Terrence still is playing defense or playing decent, right? But if he loses 3 reps and 2 of those turns into a strip sack fumble, then it's Terrence Steele was horrible. Not knowing, bro, you were literally pass setting versus Hassan Reddick or whoever for 40 attempts. Like, you're going to get beat eventually. And when the thing about Terrence, you go back to that Philly game. When he got beat, he got beat bad, and it changed the course of the game. So it's like, you want to put your offensive line going forward where they can dictate the line of scrimmage, but also it kind of gets them in motion, right? And Brian Schottenheimer talked about that today, that physicality and dominating the line of scrimmage is going to be the most important piece on both sides of the ball. He said, we're not going to do no cute t-shirts. We're not going to have no Carpe Diem and Carpe Omnia. He said, we ain't doing none of that. Just compete. You know what I'm saying? We ain't doing no t-shirts, no slogans or nothing. Just compete. So I think for the people like you, Vach, and others going out to camp or watching camp, those trench battles are going to be fun because I think that is where Shotty really wants to establish his dominance. Now, we talked about the offensive line, defensive line as well. The one tech conversation has been a hot topic button amongst Cowboys Nation, Mark, and you played the position, so you know better than anybody how important that piece is. As of right now, with just Mozzie, Jay Toya, I don't know, whoever, right? What is your confidence level when it comes to the one tech position specifically? Because there seems to be some people who feel like we can get by without it. I personally don't believe you can. It's a very important position. So what do you think about the Cowboys when it comes to your confidence in the one tech, and what should we do to fix it?
I think we need more help. I think you need a really good rotation. When you look at most of the teams that are really good, they have a stud that's in the middle. And, and that's the problem that we have right now. Maybe Mozzie can become that guy, but, as we brought in 5 edge rushers today, I guess it's
like more than
where's the defensive, any one technique guys there? No. And it's always one technique guys are always the afterthought. Last year we got we made the trade with the 7th-round pick with the Giants for he didn't even really he lasted long enough for us.
Was that Jordan Phillips? Was Jordan Phillips the Giants?
Yeah, Jordan Phillips, that was it. Jordan Phillips. Yeah. And he stayed on long enough that it ended up making the draft pick stick. And he was nothing. We go out and we get a guy like Lawson. We bring him in after training camp and stuff. But they always penny pinch when it comes to defensive tackles. They always figure well, if he's a tackle, he can play nose tackle. And it's not the same thing. Yep. You have to have a mentality. It kind of like Cooper Beebe has a mentality to be a center. He loves to crack skulls. He loves to contact. And that's the kind of guy that you have to have in the middle. You got to have a guy who's a little bit on the insane side. Because you literally are getting hit in every single direction. You are like a bull in a ring. And you have to love that. And a regular defensive tackle,
they want to get upfield. They want to,
that ain't it. Because you literally will take a double team. And what you're taught to do is drop basically to your knee, drop the anchor, and hold the spot. And your job is not to get any glory. Your job is to keep the linebackers clean so they can get the tackles. It's a thankless position, and it is hard. And you have to have a guy who's a big, mean son of a bitch that's like a fire hydrant.
Yep. You do. You do.
The Cowboys,
I think that
they haven't had that guy
Mozzie,
forever.
Yeah, I think Mozzie can turn into that, hopefully. I think Jay can turn into that, but you still need more wood for the fire. Like 1 or 2 is not going to be enough. And here's what I really felt like we're missing the void when it comes to that position, Mark, is that we don't have a veteran guy that can kind of put their arm around these young players. But all right, bro, like they got you on that rep, but like, we kind of, not anymore, but we kind of like need that.
They'll bring somebody in like a Linval Joseph or somebody that's old like that. They will. They always bring somebody who's, here for the last paycheck, last go round, and so forth. So, I was really wishing that they would try and make a play for Calais Campbell, because Calais literally can play anywhere across the line. even at his age last year, had 6.5 sacks,
Right.
you know, as a part-time player. And a guy like that would have been good to be there to mentor them and to go ahead and play, you know, half the snaps. But they didn't believe in, you know, $3 million is too much money for that kind of guy.
Because we got to sign Micah. All right. It's just, I don't know. It's someone asking on Instagram, so look to everyone watching Instagram, like, what is the purpose of delaying signing Micah? I was just like, so you can use that as an excuse not to sign nobody else, you know? So you can say it's his fault, right? Because Jerry said it's not a pattern. He said, I don't know, Emmitt Smith got brought up today, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Emmitt Smith, Deion saying, like, Jerry was just grasping for straws throughout the entirety of that interview. But it's just like, I don't understand the delay, and why can't they go get a player like Calais Campbell for $3 million? If we ain't got $3 million, then we need to fire our accountant team or something, you know, because we could definitely make that work. But for some reason, the Cowboys are kind of set in their ways. Now, there was another player that I felt like, I don't know, it wasn't warranted for the type of disrespect that he was getting today. And there was instant shots. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But still, it was just like Trayvon Diggs, our corner, right? We know Trayvon is in South Florida training, trying to get his knee right. He's not with the team currently. He took the $500,000 fine, $500,000, right? $500,000 to say, you know what? I don't trust you. I'm gonna work out on my own accord with my own people. He's documenting everything on his YouTube channel. So when it comes to the cornerback position, Mark, how do you feel about it? Because I don't feel like these guys are going to be ready. I feel like Diggs is probably going to be a pup. I know when you train with the Cowboys staff, they rush you back. 75% is 95% in their book. So Siobhan Rev will probably get tossed out there. You have Kyer Elam, Kalen Carson, Deron Bland. But overall, how are you feeling about these corners, and specifically early in the year?
Go out and get Stephon Gilmore, man. That's an insurance policy. I don't, you know, we already know we are a mass unit with guys coming back from knee injuries. Yeah. And we have not had a lot of great luck in recent histories of guys coming back right away. I mean, Savon Ravel played last September in college.
Right.
And so you're ready to go ahead and throw him into the fire? You know,
yeah, here's AJ Brown, kid. Have at it.
Okay. You know, Diggs wasn't ready last year, and maybe that was some of the reason why you saw Diggs, you know, having the fight with the reporter. You know, instantly he came out of the locker room and was like, you don't know what's going on. That knee may not have been anywhere close to being ready, and that's why he's like, I'm not putting my jaws in there because I just can't. So you're relying on a guy who's had 2 now injuries, having that dreaded microfracture surgery, you know, trying to get cartilage in the knee, and you've already put him on blast and basically say, you know, we're taking the money from him because he didn't work out with our guys, and you're relying on them to come back. And even Deron Bland, who had the mystery ankle injury, I think it was, and he missed 11 games.
Right.
You're starting out with the Eagles with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and stuff here.
Right.
Why not bring in a Stephon Gilmore, who is sitting around with the teams that allegedly, New Orleans, New England, Miami, and the Cowboys? You can't tell me he's going to get a whole lot of money from those teams, and you'd have to look at it and say, I got a better chance with the Cowboys than I do with New Orleans or with, you know, with New England. So you would have to think that he would, you know, look at that and say, you know, if we do well, maybe I can actually get some kind of a gig with the Cowboys, you know, potentially after football. So that seems to be like, okay, let's cover our bases.
Yep. It's too smart of a football move. Like I was saying on Twitter, hey, if you go and disrespect Diggs all press conference, at least call Gilly. You know what I'm saying? At least call Gilly. And you know what I'm saying? If you're going to disrespect our one of our top cornerback. So yeah, I agree. We just need a bridge guy, right? You know what I'm saying? You can bring in Gilly. He's familiar with the team. He's familiar with the players. He's familiar with the locker room. I think he was in Frisco a few weeks ago, just hanging out, right? But I guess there's nothing intimate when it comes to talks. So just like, it just makes sense. And I think that is the frustrating thing, Mark. there's so many moves the Cowboys can do that just make sense, that can really strengthen this roster. And they kind of just turn a blind eye to that, whether that was Nick Chubb or Stephon Gilmore, right? Stephon Gilmore would be a guy that if he's out there week one, we can all breathe a little easy. We can always breathe a little easy because we know he's going to be in the right spot. Is he as explosive as an athlete as he used to be? No, but he's intellectual as a corner, one of the sharpest corners pretty much in the entirety of the NFL, right? He's one of those guys who plays the game in position from the heads up. Why not just bring him in? Why do we have to sit back and see, oh, Gil just signed with the New England Patriots for $2.5 million, where you can just bring him in, have the insurance policy, and let's say Kalen Carson turns up at camp and he is the next, I don't know, Deron Blank, then you can possibly move on and cut Gilly. Like it's low risk, high reward. But I just don't understand the Cowboys' approach when it goes to it. But yeah, I'm definitely concerned about the corner because also is Deron Bland going to move on the inside and the outside, right? So I was saying this, and I was talking to Boss Cowboy, to Boss Cowboy. Hey, if the Cowboys kind of knew we not really happy with Diggs, he wasn't happy with them last year, well, then somebody should have raised their hand and say, well, maybe you want to keep Jordan Lewis. Like, if you're possibly thinking about moving on from Trayvon and we can get out the contract next year, well, why don't we just sign Jordan Lewis, who was a Cowboys guy who you drafted, who's playing at the height of his career, can strong tackle, can play in the inside with Deron Bland, then you would have been okay. But I don't know. I guess that makes too much sense for me because we just don't have any money and we're strapped for cash.
We're not strapped for cash. You could go ahead and get Micah Parsons done and we'd be over $40 million right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they were smart, they would go ahead and get Tyler Smith. Because you've got this year. Because here's where you're seeing the NFL is evolving, and people are realizing it's advantageous for us to pay the guy after the third year. Because here's what you're doing is you are signing the guy today's peak money, but you're not actually paying him if he's in the third year until 2 years later.
Exactly.
When the salary cap, which has been going up, $55 million the last 2 years. If you think about 2020, it was $185 million. It's $90 million more. So when you think about it, if it were me, I would say to Micah, hey, we want to do a 5-year deal with you. We're going to pay you $210 million, okay, to make sure you're the highest paid and so on. Because 5 years from now, the salary cap's going to be about $450 million.
Yes.
And so when you think about paying him $45 million or whatever, then it's a much smaller bite of it. That's literally what the Eagles have done.
Yes.
If you look at the Eagles' salary cap in 2029, it's $294 million that they owe their players.
And hold on, Mark. I promise you guys, I haven't talked to Mark about this because I preached a sermon on this as well. Keep going.
No, and we have literally like $40 million. Okay, so what they've done, but you look at that and say, oh, that's going to be the death nail. Is it? Because something like Jalen Hurts is $90 million of it. He'll probably still be playing. You'll restructure that, or and spread it out down the road. But if the salary cap is at $450 million, okay, you got plenty of room to go. And they won a Super Bowl with it.
Yep. And here's the reason why, Mark, I'm not sure if you know, they stacked all the money for 2029 because you like from Hurts to Brown to you name it, right?
Yeah.
Because the NFL renegotiates all their licensing agreements with all with the Amazons, the Netflix. And so more than likely the cap is probably going to quadruple at that time. And then they'll just sign those players and thin the money out again, or possibly move on from a few of them. So it's just that is where the Cowboys are losing, y'all. It's not really on the field. And I get that, right? The X and O's and meaning they play better in the playoffs, but we're really getting our asses kicked upstairs. The county department's down. It's just one of those things where we sit back and think like, oh, George Karlaftis got signed by Kansas City. I really like you. Wait, that was a whole draft class after Micah Parsons. It's just like, so Trey McBride, a whole draft class out of Micah Parsons. Philly draft signing Smitty, who was drafted in the same class last year. So all these other teams, they getting ahead of the money. But for us, we're gonna wait right till kickoff versus Philly, and then it's gonna be he signed, he's back, and they're gonna put a little cool little graphic on Instagram, and it's gonna like, bro, you literally waited to pay what you were going to have to pay anyway,
or more,
the last minute or more, and you could have just got the deal done. Now, I'm taking Micah's word for it that he wanted to get the deal done last year and other years, because I don't think Micah is really trying to crack them crazily over the head, right? He wants his money. But yeah, if they would have came to him last year with the deal, he probably would have got it done. But the Cowboys just like to delay the inevitable. And here's the thing, like you said, Mark, they're going to pay it anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like if I know my mortgage is due on the 1st, but I don't have to pay it till the 13th, the Cowboys just wait right until midnight on the 13th.
On that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Right before I have to pay interest, that is when they're actually going to pay these players, and it puts us in a bad predicament. But as we gear up for camp, Mark, let me ask you this question. What are 3 main stories that you are going to be focusing on and keeping a close eye on as we gear up for camp?
I got to watch Mozzie. Okay, he was my pet last year. Actually, I met his mother. She's an incredible woman and things like that. As he goes, that defense will go. Now, the Cowboys probably think that we're going to score tons and tons of points and we're going to be playing with the lead, which is why they're bringing in all these edge rushers, because they're hoping that we're just going to be pass rushing because we're going to make teams one-dimensional, but that's not the way it works when you get to the playoffs. Definitely have to watch Tyler Guyton, because Tyler Guyton has got to be better than what he was last year with the blind side and the whole offensive line in general, because you can have, it's kind of like, I'm a general contractor, okay? And this is just a little tad bit. If you have great carpet, but you have cheap padding, that great carpet is going to feel like cheap carpet. But if you have great padding, a cheap carpet will actually feel really, really good. And that's the same thing without running backs. If you have a great offensive line, if your offensive line is making holes, you can have an average running back be very, very good. But the reverse is not usually, unless you got Barry Sanders, is not the case.
Exactly.
And everything starts from the trenches.
Yeah, I agree. Offensive line, particularly Tyler Guyton, I'll be watching. The interior, the one tech position that we already spoke about. For me personally, also the linebackers. I want to see like who's going to really take the reins, especially with Eberflus. We know he's kind of the linebacker guy. So is it going to be a lot of Marist and Kenneth Murray? Is it going to be Sanborn and Murray? Like, how is it going to work out? Where's
really
the
love Sanborn?
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned him today, right? So I feel like they got high expectations for him. So we'll see. So I want to see what that rotation looks like. And then, of course, I think we'll all be keeping our eye out on the running back. I've been saying this. I know others been saying this. I need to see, Mark, preseason, a lot of these players out there. I don't need to see them with their diamond chains on, eating sunflower seeds, laughing and giggling. You know what I'm saying? I need to see at least a few quarters from a lot of these players to get them ready for week 1, because I hate using the first half of the season, kind of our preseason game. Oh, well, maybe, Javonte could, or maybe we could have played. Like, no. We didn't know who was our lead dog week 1, right? We didn't know what our offensive line rotation looks like week 1. Let's not have those open tryouts for earlier on in the season. But, as far as your expectations for Shotty, how do you feel about the hire? Do you think that he's going to be a long-term solution, or do you feel like he's going to be a bridge or a Band-Aid?
Well, you know what? If you take Sean McVay, most people don't remember that he actually coached with the Commanders, as well as Shanahan, as well as Mike Williams down in Miami. All of them came from a losing franchise, and nobody really thought much about them until they got an opportunity. Now, here's what I like about Brian Schottenheimer. He ended up going to the AFC Championship game, I believe, twice with Mark Sanchez. He's led the league before in running the football. The players really like him and are buying into him, I think, a lot more than they did with Mike McCarthy. He is truly a player's coach that is motivating him. Because what you want to have is you want to have players that are ready to run through a brick wall for you, that believe in what you're teaching. If they don't believe in what you're teaching and your ability, you're not going to win. You're just not. And that's where I think he's actually got a great start. And I dare say I think he will be, of the rookie coaches, I think he's going to play, his team's going to be better than any of the other ones.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think we'll get 10 wins.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if given the right opportunity, I think that Shotty could be a long-term solution. But my concern is them people upstairs, right? Because I kind of compare it to Nick Sirianni, because when Nick replaced Doug Peterson, even though Doug Peterson was kind of an unknown, he won a Super Bowl, but with the Super Bowl victory kind of comes that ego and the risk with the front office, right? They replaced him with Nick Sirianni. He was kind of an unknown when he came over to Philly. But the one thing the Eagles did is they gave Nick Sirianni everything that he needed to succeed,
right.
and more, right? And more, right? If the Cowboys can do that with Brian Schottenheimer, I think he can be an incredible coach. But if they're going to be skimming off the top and, what they typically did with Mike McCarthy, I just don't possibly seeing that work out, right? So they really need to kind of go in. And I feel like the Pickens thing, Vach kind of spoke about it, that was something that Brian Schottenheimer was kind of adamant about, is bringing in Pickens, right? Because that was out of the norm. Like, I was saying, like, hey, that was, I was like, oh, wait, what's going on, right? So that was kind of out of the norm. So if Schotty can win a few more of those battles where it's like, hey, bro, like, we're a good team, but I need that running back. I need that running back. Like, man, Jerry and Steven, if I just had like a Breece Hall or something, what this team could really be. So maybe he can win the front office over, where they can start giving him that talent that he needs. And I think that ultimately players will buy in and want to play for Brian Schottenheimer. But also, we have to keep the front office out of the way. But my guy, Mark, man, appreciate you for coming on. For someone who might be, I don't know, under a rock or something, some Cowboys fan might be under a rock or something, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you, my guy.
Jobu Sports. Just look up Jobu Sports anywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, of course on YouTube. We actually have my original channel back where I have to find the clip of Jay Tuck.
Oh, man.
Way
Throwback.
back. Okay, yeah, but before he became the man. But definitely check out. I appreciate being on here and being part of all of the great people that you've actually had on here, and I hope you keep up the great work. And thanks, hopefully, and fans, don't lose faith in the Cowboys. I think they're going to be good in spite of Jerry Jones.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all I always tell Cowboys fans, like, don't let what we do take away what you do, right? You guys are supposed to be fans. You guys are supposed to just be chaotic, rep your team, and I tell you guys, I do it on Sunday. I mean, when it's Sunday and it's game time, everything I said all the way throughout the week, toss it out the window. Like, I'm ready to win. Like, I lose my analyst mode on game day, right? So for the fans, man, enjoy it. Ride for your team. Cheer for your team. Get crazy for your team. But for us, you guys have given us these platforms and these voices to really analyze the game from an uncompromised view. If I came on here, we'd say, oh, we're going to win the Super Bowl. We're going to win the Super Bowl because we're Cowboys fans, there probably wouldn't be no reason for y'all to even tune in and watch us, right? So we want to give you guys an uncompromised view, but a realistic view. But for you guys, be a fan, represent, be excited. I'm excited, tomorrow, but you just football. Shouldn't be no Jerry and Steven talking. So we'll definitely be able to dissect that, but we should be excited for Dallas Cowboys football, and we will be competitive. We'll be able to compete. Super Bowl competition, I don't know, but we've seen strange things happen in Washington when they just went to an NFC championship. So I'm not going to completely just toss it out the window and say this team cannot, because they do have some talent. If you're seeing me for the first time, JTuck151 on all social media platforms. We're streaming on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. The YouTube channel is CFO Sports, so come on by. Even if you're not a Cowboys fan, we got a lot of Eagles fans or whatnot. We do a lot of NFL draft content. We'll be breaking down the NFL draft all year long. So if y'all see these videos drop, don't be like, oh, Tuck is giving up on the season. No. I just think that Caleb Downs and Anthony Hill is that dope. I want to talk about them right now. So we'll definitely get you guys covered as we gear up for the NFL draft and also for the Dallas Cowboys season. So for Jay Tuck, Mark Holmes, I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged. In Cowboys Nation, football is finally here. Amen. Let's get it. Peace. All right, my guy. Appreciate